You know those videos on the internet where the girl is crying and talking about something, and you always find yourself wondering, like, okay, did she go get her phone before she started crying and she was filming herself? Or was she in the middle of crying and thought this would make a great piece of content? And the reason I'm starting with that is I was just crying and now I'm recording a podcast. But there's a reason for it. So I am currently, the date I'm recording this, the first day of summer in North Carolina, in one of my favorite places. And I've been up here for several weeks, almost 7 or 8 weeks total in the last few months, with short trips back to Nashville. And I feel like I've been going through a lot of, we'll just say, feelings while I've been here. And the first 2 weeks I was here, I recorded a podcast about this, or I mentioned this in a podcast. I found out that a client that I'd worked with, we were not currently working together, but we had worked together for a while, passed away unexpectedly. And I don't think I realized at the time how much it affected me and hit me. Um, a lot of the podcasts that I did or the things I would write, this client would always reach out to me. They would always respond via email. And I was really on top of my content because in my mind, I'm like, oh, I've got to do it for this client. Like, oh, they're going to wonder where the podcast is. So I guess it was a little bit of external accountability. And I've missed that. And I miss them. And I've also been very tied up in this project that we're doing with this house and very involved in designing and changing all the doorknobs and the hinges and all the little details and building furniture. And I really do love that stuff. But at the same time, it's given me some space to really think about what I do and why I do it. And I talk a lot about relationships. And I don't talk about relationships because I believe I'm an expert on relationships. That is not the case. I am very much always learning and growing in my own relationships. I talk about relationships because I truly believe that the connection we have with other people is vital to our well-being. I'm really into healthy food, to exercising your body, to getting outside and touching grass. All of those things I believe pale in comparison to healthy, deeply connected relationships. Like, we need people. We're pack animals. And so for me, the work on relationships and being able to communicate, it's not really about this, so you can have this amazing marriage or this amazing, romantic relationship. It's just so you can have connection. And I do a lot of the inner child work and the going into your past and into your blueprint because I've found that that's where that wounding starts. Those core wounds that we get, the the parts of us that get hurt and get separated from love and get separated from connection and start putting up walls and falling into protective patterns to keep ourselves safe, that we end up blocking love. And there's a song by Old Dominion where he says, you've got to love like there's no such thing as a broken heart. And I believe that fully because I think as humans, we get hurt and we start putting our walls up and our armor on. And pretty soon, after a while, if we're old enough, I'm almost 35, we get kind of beat up by life and beat up by these relationships that didn't work out, or friendships, or, whether it's with a coworker or someone you've known since you were 5, we get kind of beat up. And we start protecting ourselves. At least that's what we think we're doing. And we walk around with all this armor on and we separate ourselves from love and we separate ourselves from connection, whether that's romantic or platonic. We separate ourselves and we isolate ourselves. And that's where anxiety and depression can just grow and multiply. It's in that separation. It's in hiding ourselves and keeping the parts of ourselves that are wounded and hurt in the dark. I always visualize it as, if you get a wound and you were to cover it up and never clean it out, just cover it up. it would start to get infected and it would fester, because that's what happens in the dark. We can be filled with shame and rage and depression, and all these things can grow in the dark. But if you take that same wound and you clean it out and you bandage it up and you tend to it, it heals. And to me, that's why it's so important to, address our old patterns and address the things that happened to us early on that are blocking connection, and addressing the things that happen to us, as we're just going through this life and trying to figure it out, and we're, getting hurt, or things didn't work out the way we thought they would. So anyways, hopefully that wasn't too confusing. Like I said, there was no plan for this podcast. I was literally sitting at the kitchen island on ChatGPT, practically crying to AI, trying to sort out, like, how am I going to structure this? What am I trying to say? What am I trying to do? And then I was like, I just need to talk it out. And I have a podcast, so I'm just going to talk it out on the podcast. But like I said, I've had a lot of time to just think about, like, what is the thing that's really important? Like, what is the message that's really important to me? And I think it's that we've got to feel our feelings in order to heal. And we need connection. And we've got to break down all those things that are keeping us from connection. You think about if you had a stream of water, that's your life. And then things happen to you throughout your life, like logs falling in the river. And if you don't address those logs, they'll dam up the stream. And then your life isn't flowing anymore. It's just stuck and it's stagnant. And so what I love to do with my clients is get in there and clean out the stream so that you can experience love and connection. And it doesn't mean you'll have a perfect relationship. I do not have a perfect relationship, but I am in a relationship where we're both trying and we're both growing and we're both taking accountability. Even if we don't get there immediately and it takes a few days, we're working on it and we're working on that connection. And I'm able to look at the things in my life like, this is what's keeping me, stuck or stagnant. And I think that's what's really important. I don't think it's about perfection. In fact, I think perfection is, man, I didn't post on Instagram for a long time because when I first started working for myself, I would see people with these perfectly polished videos. And I tried to be like them for like a few days. And it was like, this is exhausting because it's not me. Like, if you know me in real life, I am not polished and perfect. I wear Crocs, okay? And it didn't fit. And so I think sometimes we're sold this idea that just if you meet the right person, if the right person loves you, it's this perfect, beautiful union. And that's not reality, because the world is messy and life is messy. And relationships can be really challenging because it's hard to keep your heart open when you have a lot of logs in your river. So what I really wanted to come on here to say tonight is that I'm in the middle of iterating yet again, because that's also something I love to do. Personally, I'm trying to choose, do I want to put my energy really into this, relearn relationships or growth over easy? As I'm recording this, I don't even know which podcast this is going to come out on. So we'll see what I do with that. In fact, if you listen to this, I would love your feedback. So go ahead and shoot me an email, lily@lilyrachels.com. I'll put that in the show notes if you have any thoughts on it, because I'm open to opinions right now. But what I want you to take away, if you're still listening to my late night ramble at this point, also, I like how this is how I'm spending a Friday night. I have my 3 dogs around, a couple of them are snoring, and I'm just sitting here talking to my computer, recording a podcast. I actually kind of love it. But if you're still listening at this point, what I want you to take away from this is you don't have to do this alone. You're not designed to do this alone. And this idea that we are these lone wolves and we're supposed to figure it out all by ourselves is dumb. Like, I think it's really dumb. And We need people. As the Barbara Streisand song says, people who need people are the luckiest people in the world. I need people. The thing I'm most proud of in my life are my relationships, particularly with my friends. I am over the moon about my friendships because I know some of the most genuine, loving people, and I worked to build those relationships by working on myself and my ability to be vulnerable and open my heart. Because without that, I would never be capable of experiencing those relationships. So if that sounds like you, if any of this sounds like you, and you're at a place where you're like, I need some support, I can't do this all alone either, I would love to support you. You can reach out to me in a couple of ways. One, email in the show notes, lily@lilyrachels.com. Shoot me an email. If you're listening to this through Substack, shoot me a DM or comment on this post. And if you're on social media, I'm Lily Rachels everywhere. Just message me. Please reach out because life is too precious to settle for just that stagnant, that stagnant water, that stuck feeling. When living with an open heart and being strong enough to be vulnerable, it's the most magical thing ever. And I want everyone to experience that. I want everyone to experience that because I know the world can beat you up, but it doesn't have to stay that way. And you don't have to have that experience. Thank you for listening.